The state of Utah and the FTC are cracking down on some of the world's largest adult websites. The company ALO is facing a $5 million fine and will be forced to remove content that allegedly includes child sex abuse material and non-consensual videos.
Utah Attorney General Derek Brown joining us this morning. Thank you for coming in. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you've told us before, protecting children from online exploitation, a top priority.
Absolutely.
Reiterate that.
Well, and this is why we have filed suit against TikTok, against Meta, recently against Snapchat. I mean, we've also filed suit and got a huge settlement on the opioid issue. I mean, so anything that impacts our kids is huge. But this is what we're doing here with this company ALO, which is one of the largest, if not the largest purveyor of pornography on the planet, is we're basically forcing that industry to change. We're forcing change in an industry where it's long overdue.
What is ALO?
Yeah, is it the parent company?
It's the parent company of hundreds of different websites. So it is the 800-pound gorilla in the pornographic industry. And so what we're hoping is that by doing this settlement, by the way, this is the first time any state has done this. Utah is the first to do this. The hope is that other states are going to look at what Utah is doing and that they will be following. And not only that, but that other smaller players in the industry are also going to be taking note.
So is this just a chink in the armor for them, though?
Well, what this
that
does,
it's just Utah?
Well, what it does is it opens up in some ways the floodgates, because it basically says, look, they're changing their business model, not just for Utah, but for the entire world.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so tell us what this forces them to do, basically.
Well, it forces them. There's been material during the years that we have identified that involves children. Mm-hmm. And while the First Amendment protects, obviously, speech and expressive activities, it doesn't protect sexual material involving children or people who didn't give their consent. Mm-hmm. And so what this requires them to do, in addition to pay a fine to Utah, is they've now got to go through all their websites, all their material, and make sure that anyone that is on any of those sites mm-hmm. is not just over 18, but that they've given written consent. Mm-hmm. So it really does change their business model and make things much more difficult. But the idea is we're trying to protect kids, and that's what we've done here.
Now, we don't have ALO here to ask questions of them, obviously, but is their argument that they're getting material that they can't police all of it coming in? Or were they responsible for
They
putting
may
this
say
on?
that, but
yeah.
You know what? It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
As the Attorney General from Utah, if you have material that involves children, I don't care. It's illegal, and we'll go after you.
Mm-hmm. Now, you really probably have to work with the FTC,
yes.
hand in hand with them, to make sure that they're following these rules, and that sounds like a pretty tough job because it's so huge.
Well, you know what we've actually done? So what we've done is we've structured this settlement. So we filed this with the court, so that the court, here in Utah, the federal district court is overseeing this settlement. And we've done that so that if they violate the agreement, it's not just violating an agreement with me or the state of Utah, they're violating a court order. And we have a third-party auditor who will go through routinely and verify that everything on their website there is consent for. And so in other words, I don't have to take their word for it.
Mm-hmm. We've seen some dominoes falling with age verification
yes.
laws in several states. Utah was, I don't know where in line Utah was, but certainly one of them. Are you hoping that the same happens with other states in regards to sort of this specific issue?
Absolutely. In fact, there was a recent Supreme Court case specifically on this issue. And so, I mean, this is not just an issue for the pornography industry, but also for social media. I mean, we want these industries to say, look, there's got to be a way to verify, because if the material is not age appropriate, if it isn't something a 13-year-old should see, then we want you to be able to verify that. And so this is, in some respects, putting the burden on them, but that's what this settlement does with the company ALO, is it shifts the burden. And rather than us having to go and prosecute for underage child sexual material, which is something we do. Mm-hmm. We have an Internet Child Task Force right. that routinely investigates and prosecutes people here in Utah. But what it does is it shifts the burden and puts the burden on them, and they've agreed to do that. And so I think this is it's a huge step forward in changing an industry.
Well, that age verification sounds like it's expensive and complicated and a lot of work for the company to do. Is your little hope that they'll just say, sorry, we can't do it?
You know what? In the age of technology that we live, it is becoming easier and easier to verify somebody's age. Mm-hmm. And they know that. And in fact, a number of these companies announced the day after the Supreme Court decision, after saying, hey, this is really hard to do. Like the morning after, they said in the UK, okay, we're going to actually start doing. We're going to start doing the very thing that they've been saying for years is impossible to do. So the reality is this can be done, absolutely.
Okay. Are these changes enough? Is the settlement enough, in your opinion, to get ALO to comply with Utah laws?
Absolutely, because this is now a court order that they will be complying with. And so ultimately what we want to do is force them not just to do this change, but for everybody else. I've had interest from other attorneys general around the country.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because they're watching, and I do this as well. I know a lot of the other AGs around the country, and we all talk, and if someone's got a great idea in another state, I'm all on board for doing that here in Utah. And so we've done something, I think, pretty groundbreaking here in Utah. And so it's not surprising that other states have reached out and said, hey, how did you do it? Can we speak with your attorneys who have negotiated the settlement?
So they can kind of line up and get the same things happening in their states.
That's the idea.
Okay. What's next? What else is on your radar for kind of protecting children in Utah?
Well, we have a number of these lawsuits going forward, and we've been defending. A lot of these tech companies are trying to get them dismissed, and so we've spent a lot of time and energy making sure that they don't get dismissed. And so, for instance, we spent a lot of energy, and we're still working on the Snapchat. We just sued Snapchat, in the last month or two, and so we're trying to get them to comply in a way that basically protects kids, because the reality is that's where kids are. I mean, people talk about Facebook and what, our kids aren't on Facebook. I mean,
just old people.
Well, you can't find anyone. You won't find anyone in high school who's on Facebook,
Right.
and a lot of them aren't even on Instagram, but most of them are on Snapchat. And so that's why we're focusing on Snapchat
TikTok.
and TikTok, exactly. And so, I mean, this is critical. I mean, it's a powerful tool, but at the same time, it needs to be age appropriate, and there's material that isn't age appropriate. And so our job is to protect kids. So, I mean, from here moving forward, I mean, I've said from day one, we have to protect kids. That's our job, and we will continue to do that. And so, we will monitor. We're working on opioid settlement money, on big tech. Now we're looking at the pornographic industry, and there's others to come. But that's the continuing thread is protecting kids.
Before the age of the internet, it wasn't impossible, but the barrier to view pornography for children or minors was pretty high. What is your response to the argument when people say there shouldn't be a higher barrier when it comes to the internet?
You know what? The world's changed.
Yeah.
I mean, when we were kids, you had to, if you were going to see pornography, you would searched it out or something. Now it finds us. It finds our kids. So what I've said to parents all across Utah when I speak to them is talk to your kids. What I'm doing as Attorney General, I think is something that we have to do. These lawsuits and these actions are critical, but they're not a substitute for doing just the hard work of parenting. Which is hard. I have teenagers. Yeah. It's hard. Talk to them.
How do you make it feel like you're not spying on them? And
you know
have
what?
to create that relationship, right?
And sometimes you just need to let them know that you are. You need to let them know that there's nothing private in, if you're 13 years old, you know what I'm saying, as a parent, we're going to see what you're seeing. Yeah. And I think that helps them know that you care, but they think about it, what they're saying, because the reality is this stuff finds them, and friends share it. And I think it's hard to be a parent in this world for this issue, but it's something that we have to do, and we need to protect our kids. And I think we need to start by talking with them.
You can say, hey, I saw that you were on this dangerous website.
Exactly.
For this long.
And there's great technology that actually alerts you to that very thing. And I've seen that as well, where it'll say, hey, there was this website that was visited, and here's the concern. So that's what we have to do as parents.
Okay. Utah Attorney General Derek Brown, thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Stay tuned. I'm sure we will hear more from you in the future.
You will.
We'll have you back.